Hey, here we are, guys. We're going to start the 2-inch suspension lift on my 94 Fzj80. I ended up going with the TJM 2-inch springs. In my earlier video I stated I'm going for 37s with little to no lift. So my plan is to have lots of down travel. So the up travel will be limited with bump stops, taking the fender flares off, bumpers, skid plates, and rock sliders. So anyway, this is the perfect lift for me. I don't know if it is for you, but it's only 2-inch lift, and all the research I looked up, the stock shocks will work for now. I'm going to be redoing all my shock mounts as well. So for now, it just gets the lift on it so that I can start rebuilding the front end and U-joints and axle gears. I gotta go 529s, ARBs. So anyway, I hope you'll join me on this build. Here's the part numbers. Summit Off-Road has them on clearance right now, and I got all 4 springs. There it is, for 200 bucks. And you don't even need to do any caster correction because it's only a 2-inch lift. And stay tuned for putting them on, and then also the review on them. Hey guys, you're just gonna have to hang in there with me. My garage has terrible lighting, so here we go. So we got the front end in the garage, so we're gonna start with the front. And what we need to do is we need to be able to get the axle to drop down far enough to this LED light's not working very well. Let me get to a different light. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back with my hokey dokey light here, but what we need to do is that is the top of the shock bolt. So all we do is pull that nut off the top of the shock bolts. There's one, there's my motor, and there's the other one there. See if I can get a good view of it. It's down right underneath that. Right there. There it is. So we're going to remove those 2 nuts, and basically all I'm trying to do is get that front axle to fall down enough. This front axle to fall down enough to where I can remove the coil spring. Sorry, my finger's in the way. So all we need to do is take the limitation off the suspension so that coil spring will unload and I can just wiggle it out of there. And we'll show you that. So this is the Fj80. It has the solid front axle. Has a power steering leak, which I'll be working on in a different video. And yeah, we're going to be putting diff guards on it, and eventually once I get my 37s on here, I'm going to be putting a 3-link suspension on it. I'm going to home build a little Y-link 3-link, and I'm going to rebuild these knuckles, so you're going to get to see that also. So anyway, this is my first video, so be patient with me. As the videos come along, they'll get better and better. So today's suspension is going to be pretty straightforward. I'm just going to jack the front axle, jack the whole front end up, put jack stands underneath the frame, and let the axle fall down, pull the springs out. So the other thing I'm probably going to have to do is pull, if you can see it. Like I said, I have really bad lighting, and that'll get better with time too. But I'm going to pull these sway bar brackets off. Either there or right. I wonder if anybody will watch this video. Right. It's coming. Anywho. Let's see. And we're back. So we're underneath the passenger side here, and there's the sway bar bolt. So I'll be removing this guy right here. And we'll zoom out. It's just right next to that coil spring on both sides. And then if you see the brake line, let's see if we can get a good shot of that. Sorry guys, there it is. The brake line right there. See on the top, there's just a little 10mm bolt. I'm going to yank that bracket off so when the front axle droops down, it doesn't put any pressure on that brake line. And we'll just literally pull the coils out, put the new ones in, you know. And while we're here, one of the problems we have on these Land Cruisers is these cats. They hang down. Here's the rocker, there's the door, and these hang down. So you have to make your sliders come around the catalytic converter to support your slider. The rocks and stuff don't hit your door. So my next video, or one of my videos, is I bought the trail gear rock sliders, and we're gonna bend the trail gear arms around that. Hey guys, so all I had to do was pull the two 12mm bolts, 12mm head, probably 10mm bolts, out of the sway bar. Then I pulled the bottom nut off of the shock. Oh, let's see. Off of the shock so the shock could pull out. And then I just stood. Let me show you. Here's the spring. I just stood on the tire. I jacked it up with a jack, put a jack stand underneath the frame, and then just stood on this guy right here, and I was able to just pull this right out. So I will show you in a second how I put the new one in. All right. Okay guys, I know this is really bad footage. As time goes on, I'll get better, I hope. But here's the new coil. It's the TJM 2-inch lift coil next to the old stock coil. So there it is. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this coil. I'm going to slip it. Ooh, yeah, no light. This is the button. Okay. Hopefully you'll, let me pause it. Okay, so I'm going to take my TJM 2-inch lift coil. I'm going to slip it over the bump stop right there. I step on my tire. You know, guys, I'm not going to be able to do this while I show you, but I'll show you a little demonstration. I just take and I step on my tire and I push down, and it gives me just enough room to shove the new coil in. Sorry, next time I'll have a cameraman. Okay guys, this may look like a sketchy way of doing this, but it's the only thing that worked. I jacked it up by the frame, put a jack stand underneath it, and then the weight of the vehicle pivoted back so the front tire lifted off the ground. So I just took my high lift, put it underneath the receiver, and jacked it up just a few clicks. So the weight isn't completely on the high lift. All it's doing is pivoting the weight on the jack stand so it pivots forward onto the front axle. I don't know, maybe it's too sketchy for you, but all I had to do was disconnect the sway bar, 4 bolts, the brake line, the e-brake line, 1 bolt, and then the shocks, and the spring came out pretty much no problem. So there it is, guys. Hope this is helping. I am learning to be a YouTuber. And there you have it. 2-inch TJM lift kit installed. No caster correction, no aftermarket shocks. I did some research on shocks, and it turns out the aftermarket shocks for this lift are only a 1/2 inch longer. So as long as your shocks are in good shape, you'll only be losing minimal amount of travel down flex. So I'm going to run the stock shocks because I have bigger plans for this thing, including 3-link front and yada yada yada. So I don't want to waste the money on shocks now. I want to buy the shocks for the build. So anyway, this is enough lift for 37s. Soon I'll be taking the running boards, fender flares off, rhino lining where the fender flares are, plugging up the holes. I'm getting the trail gear front bumper, trail gear sliders, and the 4x4 Labs rear bumper. So 529s, ARBs, and the Marlin Crawler low case gears. So stick around and we're going to be doing all of that to this thing. Rebuilding the front end, fixing the power steering leak. It's got a long way to go. So I hope you guys will join me. Sorry for the bad video. Hopefully as this build goes on I'll get better at it. But anywho, let's go get in the book and I'll show you what bolts I removed and how I put the lift on. Alright. Okay, I hope you guys can see this. This is the best my book does. It's just the Chilton manual. So anywho, so in order to pull it down far enough to remove these springs, these are the coils that we replaced today, I'm going to have to remove the limiting factors. So I'm going to remove this stud here. If you can see it, that's the bottom of the shock. Oh no, yep, bottom of the shock. So I'm going to remove the nut off of that. And I hope you have a good impact in the nut off of that because it's a booger to get off of there. So that's going to be removing the shocks because the shocks limit the down travel. And then I'm going to be removing this bracket and this bracket. Now if you want to make it just a hair easier, you can remove either this bolt or this bolt. But I wanted to make it difficult on myself, so I did not. So then you jack up the suspension by the frame so that the axle falls away from the frame. And as it falls away from the frame, these springs anyway, they expand, and at a certain point this axle falls further, then that spring will open up and you can just wiggle the spring right out. So that's how I did the front. It probably only took me half hour. Alright, let's go ahead and move on. And then over the next year or two, I'm going to be rebuilding these knuckles. I'm going to be taking this third member out, putting 529s and an ARB in, which is a high pinion. And then we're going to be, of course, rebuilding this side. And then we're going to be doing caster correction. So, and caster is the angle in which the top and the lower kingpin align. So as you lift it, these two bushings throw the axle caster out of alignment. So you have to either space this bushing down, twisting the axle, or you can put bushings in that change the angle of the arm. So we'll go over those different options. And then, okay, let's show. Okay, here's the rear end. So I'm going to remove this shock bolt, pull the shock off, and while you have this shock out, put a little grease on it because this is the point in which it rotates. So we're going to remove this shock bolt. And if your kit comes with shocks, you probably have more money than me. I bought my kit from Summit on sale for 200 bucks. So it was pretty cheap. So I just kept the stock shocks because they are long enough. But you're going to remove this bolt, and then you're going to remove the same thing, the sway bar brackets, there and there. And then you're going to remove the breather hose, which is, you see, oh no, that's the brake line. You're going to remove these two bolts because this is the e-brake line to give you enough flex there. And then on top of the axle, that might be it, there's a breather. It's pretty easy. You just pinch the little clip and pull the breather off. And then the rear axle, you just, like I showed you in the video, you just jack the frame up, leave the axle on the ground until these springs are, they'll just be floating in there. You just lift up on them, twist them, and pull them out. Hey guys, I know that this is my first video. I'm still learning, but I hope you guys will like and subscribe so you can join me in this build. It should be pretty cool. Thanks guys.